From the #1 best-selling author of Life Rescripted, you're now tuning in to the Year of Purpose podcast. I'm Zephan Moses Blacksburg. James Lawrence, also known as the Iron Cowboy, is a proud husband, father of 4 daughters and a son, and he is an extreme endurance athlete and currently holds the world record for the most 140.6 official races in a year, and recently accomplished the seemingly impossible, the 50-50-50, which I'll have him explain in just a moment. But first, James, welcome back from Italy. Thanks for being here today.
Hey man, you bet. I'm happy to be here.
So it's super cool to talk to you because you have truly pushed the limits of what the human body is capable of, the limits of what people think they can do, and you're living proof of this. So I'd love to just kind of rewind real fast. What does kid James look like when you were a kid? How did you get into this whole I'm gonna just push myself to the extreme limit?
Yeah, that's a interesting question, and I don't think we wake up just one day and go, boom, I'm going to do, something extraordinary. I think extraordinary happens organically and over time, and I think people rush to the extraordinary, and they don't enjoy all of the milestones and landmarks along the way, and for me, Kid James loved to play, loved wrestling, and I wrestled for 11 years, and it was just a massive passion of mine. And then just found my way to Utah as an adult, and found my wife, and have set up a life here. And as an adult, you want to have those same competitive outlets that I did as a kid in wrestling, and I found that in endurance racing and triathlon.
And through doing this, you've actually broken 2 Guinness World Records, is that right?
Yeah, in 2010, I set out to raise money for charity. And in 2010, I was raising money for In Our Own Quiet Way, which at the time we were building dams in Africa, and they're responsible for setting up women's groups and orphan feeding centers, and they do a lot of really great work. And so I wanted to be involved with that charity and try to make an impact. And so I just set out to do as many races as I could, and it turned out to be a world record that year, which I happened to set almost as a byproduct of what I was trying to do for the charity. And really, it wasn't about the world record. And then I had my sights set out. I was like, well, if that was attainable, let's see what the mind and body is capable of doing. And in 2012, I actually intentionally tried to set out and break the world record for the most full Ironmans in a year. And we did 30 full official events through 11 countries in 1 calendar year.
That's absolutely amazing. And just for the people tuning in, some people don't know what the Ironman races are like. Could you just explain to them what's involved in a race like this?
Yeah, there's 4 standard distances in triathlon, which is swimming, biking, and running. The shortest is a sprint, then there's the Olympic distance, the half Ironman, and then the full Ironman, which is a 2.4-mile swim, followed by a 112-mile bike ride. And then after you've done that, you just follow it up with a 26.2 standard marathon run. So it totals 140.6 miles, and you've got to cover all that distance by yourself.
So, I thought it was pretty nuts when I was telling you I did a Tough Mudder, and that was like maybe 12 miles, and I thought I was going to die there. So I can't even imagine what it's like to push your body, for all this time. What's like, I don't want to say an average, but what's like a decent time in completing a race like this? Like, how much time are you investing during the race? And then what do you do leading up to this? And, how are you preparing yourself for that?
Yeah, I think that anybody that finishes any distance of race, has to use discipline and apply certain things to be able to accomplish it. And anybody that finishes an Ironman, I think it's a massive accomplishment. Your fastest, most elite athletes are going to be right around the 8-hour mark. These are the professionals that's what they were destined to do, and that's their livelihood. And you have all the way up until 17 hours to complete it, and so you have from 7 a.m. to midnight to complete it. During the 30 in 1 year, I averaged under 12 hours for all of those events. And 12 hours is a great benchmark for people that are, progressing through the sport. First, it's I want to finish an Ironman, I want to break 14, I want to break 12, and then you want to break 10. You want to, for someone that's really striving to push their limits and have an athletic aspiration beyond completing an Ironman, which is a fantastic accomplishment. I think pushing your limits and trying to get into that 9-hour range is something that'll push a lot of people.
That's crazy. And so, planning for this race, because essentially you're spending a whole day pushing your body. Some people are used to, I'm going to jump on the treadmill for 30 minutes, or maybe if I go out for a really long run, I'm out for like 45 minutes or an hour. Are you starting to prep for this, 90 days out, a month out? Like what? I mean, I guess you obviously have to keep your body in 100% solid shape throughout the year. But what does training look like just leading up to even one of these races?
Yeah, I am a coach, and I coach Ironman athletes, and I think I think Ironman is one of those things that you cannot cram for an Ironman. It's just something that it's not a test you can flippantly get ready for. That there's a lot of things and a lot of elements that go into it, not only mentally but physically, nutritionally. There's so many aspects to learning. It has an extremely steep learning curve. I would say most people can go out and wing a 5K, a 10K, a sprint triathlon once they get over the hurdle of the water. But an Ironman's a different beast. An Ironman, it takes an intense sacrifice mentally, physically, emotionally. If you have a spouse and children, you want to make sure that they're on board with what you're doing. It needs to be a group decision. And I think people don't take or give it enough respect, and they're just like, oh yeah, I can swim 2.4, I can do an Ironman, or I can bike 112, I can do an Ironman. It's really different when you start to string all of these together and go beyond 8, 9, 10, 11 hours of physical activity and trying to stay mentally sharp throughout that entire time and not give up. And there's a difference between going through the motions of an Ironman and then racing and pushing the pace of an Ironman and trying to bring out your best self. That's a different mental game altogether.
And I think one of the key differences that sets you apart from many people is that you're not only pushing your body, but I think one of the coolest things you do is you really work with a bunch of different charities. And for you, it's for a cause, right? And so when you hit that first Guinness World Record, it sounds like you didn't set the intention and say, okay, I'm going to go break this record. It was more of like, I'm doing this for almost... Even though it's as selfish enough for yourself, you're almost doing it for others just as much.
Yeah, initially it totally was for charity, and the world record wasn't even in the conversation. And every time I do one of these events, we always attach a charitable aspect to it. It's one of the huge goals. But at the same time, there's always a personal journey along the way and what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. And I think it's a beautiful mix of both things, of trying to make yourself better and push your limits and figure out where you are mentally and physically, and at the same time helping others and bringing people together and motivating and empowering and inspiring. And so it's just this great collaboration of a lot of cool things that come together, and the opportunity to do something on so many levels is very rewarding.
So I have a two-part question about what's changing for you mentally. Basically, I'd like to hear what's going on for you during the race. I play music if I go out for a run, right? But like, are you playing this whole story out in your mind if you're out there for 8 or 12 hours? And then what's happening in the mind of your family and the people that are following you and supporting you during this whole race?
The 50 or the Ironman?
The Ironman in general, and then I'd love to go into hearing about the 50-50-50.
Yeah, it's tough. Doing an Ironman race is about the journey to get to the start line. I think that's where you learn most. And the day of an Ironman, I think that's a celebration, to celebrate the hard work and the sacrifice and get the rewards of what all that looks like. And the spouse and the kids, and if you've included them along in the whole journey and made them part of it, I mean, it's a day for them too. I mean, trust me, Ironman racing is a very challenging day for the spectators, and they're there to celebrate the day of the person doing it, but they're also there to celebrate the sacrifice and everything that they've done. And so it's just an entire day for everybody. And when you're out doing an Ironman, it's just a lot of self-talk and a lot of alone time. You're not with your family anymore. You're out there grinding away, and you can just hope that you can sense their energy and their excitement. And then it's a big celebration when you come back together and do see them a few times throughout the day.
So this is very unique in this type of race. If I go out and run a half marathon or a marathon, typically you don't really get a chance to stop in and see them in between. It's just you and the road, and you're going and you see them at the finish line. So it sounds like this is a unique journey where I'm sure you guys probably have a point in time where you change out from swimming to running or biking. There's like a little bit of a turnover period. So you kind of get to see your team and they get to cheer you back on again and up your energy, and you get to go back out again, right?
Yeah, a good Ironman course will hopefully be spectator friendly. There's a point where you get to see them come out of the water, and hopefully they catch your voice from the crowd and cheering. And then the biggest spectating portion becomes the run portion, the marathon, where they can line the streets and you can stop and talk to them and embrace your loved ones as you're progressing through your adventure, and what that means to you. And then again at the finish line, you have full access to them, and it's just an amazing moment when that all comes together and the right people are there supporting you.
That's awesome. So one of the biggest things that you've accomplished recently has been the 50-50-50. What inspired you to do this? You did, what was it, 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 different states, is that right?
Yeah, we set out to really push the mind and the body to a point that every single person said it was impossible. And then we set out to raise money for childhood obesity. And we did a 5K every single day at the end of my Ironman, where the public got to come out and participate with us and be part of our day. And it was just amazing to see the country to come out and support us and be part of this. But yeah, it was an unbelievable prep for us to get ready for this. And then we had no idea or any way of anticipating how challenging those 50 days would be. I mean, we literally did an Ironman every single day in every state. We were sleep deprived. We had to figure out the logistics of getting everywhere, executing, do the fundraising, including the public in what we were doing. It was just a massive struggle, but the highest of highs upon successful completion.
So what was it that changed in your mind where you were just like, I'm going to take this to the next level and do something that seems completely ridiculous? I mean, no one's done it before. Like, how... I can't even fathom how you just kind of wake up one day and you're just like, we're going to do this and I'm all in. How do you get inspired to do this, and how do you stay all in throughout that entire process?
Yeah, I think, like from the beginning of the conversation, I think everything happened organically. And for me, mentally, it was just the next natural progression for what was next for me. I mean, I'd done the halves, I'd done the 30 fulls in a year, and I got to about race 27 of the fulls in that year, and I was like, man, this isn't it. There's more. I haven't accomplished what I've set to done. I haven't pushed myself mentally or physically. And once I had successfully done the 30, I was like, I know there's more. And it just came to me. It was like 50-50-50. This is something we're doing. And it was so outlandish and so outrageous that it wasn't received well. And then once I committed to it fully, and got the support of my family, and we started working towards that goal, the deeper and the more involved that we got, the more confident we got that we could do it. And there was no question. It was just a matter of figuring it out and how to keep moving. And we didn't give ourselves an out or an excuse. It was, no, this is what we're doing. We just need to figure out how we're going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's great that it wasn't a question of if, it was just a matter of, what are we going to do to make it happen? Let's make that happen. I think that that's the best way to look at any feat that's standing in front of you that you're trying to accomplish. I think that this question is kind of inevitable, but, was there a point where you wanted to quit or give up, or was there any point where you're like, oh man, like this is the bump in the road that's going to give us trouble?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it was a bump in the road or a speed bump that we had to endure or encounter. There was never a defining moment where it was like, okay, guys, I'm done. I can't continue. And the team was like, no, 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 we can do this. They never had to give that pep talk. I mean, there was definite moments where it was like, okay, James needs a minute. He needs to regroup, but it's not a matter of whether he's quitting or not. He just needs a second. And it goes back to that principle of we have a plan A. And plan A was 50 Ironmans, 50 days, 50 states. But we didn't know what that looked like. And we had a general idea of how to get there, but we never did have a plan B or a plan C, because the moment something goes wrong, you would make an adjustment to your goal and you would use that as an excuse to go to plan B or plan C. So we always had plan A. It was just creativity and intelligence and being flexible and being able to adjust that allowed us to keep going towards plan A. So we were always moving forward, and there was always obstacles, but it was on us as a team to figure out those obstacles and keep pushing towards what our ultimate goal was.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big word that a lot of people use is pivot, and to pivot when you've got something that pops up for you, the road doesn't end here. We're just kind of taking a turn and going in a bit of a different direction. And it sounds like that's exactly what you guys did when stuff came up. I think that you've definitely got this type of mindset where anything you set yourself to, you're going to accomplish no matter what, in some way, shape, or form. Do you think that this was something that has been instilled in you since birth? Is this something that can be trained into someone? If, let's just say someone's listening in right now and they're like, man, I want to be able to accomplish something like what James has done. Is this something that's teachable?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's teachable to someone that has patience and that isn't entitled and wants instant gratification. Because if you go out and you set your goal on something, I didn't wake up one day and go, you know what, 50-50-50. That's what I'm doing today. I'm going to just jump in it and go for it. It was organic, and the mental preparation stems all the way back to when I was in 7th grade and I lost my very first wrestling match. And I started to develop that skill set and work on my mental strength, and I got better and better at developing that, and I put myself in a lot of situations to where I was able to strengthen my mental fortitude and get stronger as a person and an individual, as an athlete. And then every one of those experiences and hard things that I experienced would add to it, and then at a certain point in time I was ready to do it. And so absolutely, there's no goal that's not attainable. What people need to realize is you have to have the appropriate time frame associated with such big goals. And you have to be willing to do the right things consistently over a long period of time. And that's what I mean by people having an entitlement issue, is they want it right now and they're not willing to be consistent and they're not willing to work towards it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made a really good point there that this is certainly not a sport for instant gratification. This is not something where you sign up tomorrow and you feel amazing. This is something...
Well, not only the sport, but any big goal, whether it's business, financial, family related, any big goal, you can't want instant gratification. It's not going to come like that. Any successful person, any superstar that you see, I'm not saying I'm a superstar, but any superstar that you see out there, you have to realize that there's a massive backstory that led them to the point where they were the superstar. You're only seeing the arrival. You're only seeing a part of that journey where they have made it. But most superstars and massive individuals that we see in the spotlight, they got there because of consistency and hard work over a lifetime of experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you would agree that, some of the biggest mistakes that people make is going into it for the wrong reasons, and so I'm wondering from you, both as a trainer, as someone who is, in the thick of it themselves, what's the biggest mistake that you're seeing people doing when they're trying to push themselves to such extreme limits like this?
Yeah, they try to make everything happen too fast, and they try to fit a square into a round circle. And you have to push the limits, but within reason, and make it happen organically.
Yeah, so it really has to be something that you allow to happen as opposed to trying to force to happen.
Absolutely, and there's that fine line of forcing something to happen and pushing your limits. You don't want to force it so that it fails and is too quick. but you want to push that envelope and progress at a reasonable rate. If that makes sense at all.
Yeah, well, and I think that one of the things that pushes people into this in the first place is, much like you said, there are these, heroes or superstars that we see out there. Who are some of the people that maybe you looked up to as a kid, or even right now, that still inspire you to this day to do what you're doing?
Yeah, if we're talking athletics. I love in the MMA mixed martial arts world, George St. Pierre. He was a great guy that exuded patience and discipline and respect in the sport, and did nothing but hard work. And then you look at iconic people like Wayne Gretzky and Michael Jordan and LeBron James and all of these people that are just unbelievable at what they do. I look up and follow all those guys as an example as far as their discipline is concerned, and the way that they've approached things methodically and how laid out everything is. And then just patience. And it goes all the way back to the simplest of concepts, and that's doing something consistently for a long period of time. And that's what people have to learn to do. The secret to success is action. Action and work. And individuals aren't willing to do the work. I get emailed every single day with concepts and ideas, and I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to go try to accomplish this. And I've yet to see any of them come to fruition or anybody actually take the action and put it into play.
So action being the key.
There's so many amazing ideas out there. It's action and doing what you say you're going to do and implement.
Yeah, no, I think that action is definitely the key word there. So along the lines of taking action, you've accomplished so many amazing things. Obviously, it doesn't stop here. So, how do you go where do you go next? You talked about how the 50-50-50 was a natural progression for you. So now that you've done that, it's like, what's next for the Iron Cowboy?
Yeah, it's interesting. I thought once I'd get to the 50 and I was approaching that finish line that it was going to be my finish line. And what I realized was it wasn't. It was simply a milestone. It was simply a launching platform to whatever direction I wanted to go next. And that's the way life should be, is we should be always trying to achieve milestones, but not necessarily trying to reach a specific destination. And for us, what's next is we've got an incredible opportunity to help and empower people to reach their limits and their potentials. And I've launched, or I'm in the process of launching this week, our coaching platform, where we're going to take athletes to another level. And people that are interested in signing up for that can go to teamironcowboy.com and access all of our information there. And then I'm doing a lot of speaking at corporations and clubs and teams and schools, and just going out and spreading the message of doing hard things and putting in the work and taking patience and applying all of these principles that we've talked about today and trying to achieve greatness. And greatness to every individual is going to be different than what it means to you or I. And greatness to somebody listening isn't 50-50-50. And that's not what I'm trying to get everybody to do, but I'm trying to get them to make themselves uncomfortable and do something that they haven't done in a long time and do something new. Because the reality is fear is fear's in everything. And it's what is holding most people back. And the reality is that a better you is on the other side of fear.
I love that. A better you is on the other side of fear. I think that's awesome. James, you've got some amazing charities that you support. I think that it's crucial that everyone listening in understands that this is not for you, right? Like there's a certain satisfaction in all the things that you've achieved, but this really is kind of like your gift that you're giving to the world. So what are the organizations that you're supporting right now and that you encourage others to look into?
Yeah, right now one of the great groups that we're working with is called rodsracing.org. And it's a lot of like-minded triathletes that are going out and racing and raising money to place these orphan Down syndrome children into loving homes, and then educating them about how to be active and live healthy lifestyles. And the website on that is just rodsracing.org, R-O-D-S racing.org. It's a tremendously worthy cause, and there's so many of them out there. And this is just one that I've chosen to align with right now, and hopefully put some desperately needed orphans into some loving homes.
That's an excellent cause. And James, I want to thank you for being here today. Is there any sort of final parting words just for everyone tuning in right now that you really want to drive home for them?
We covered a lot of ground today, and hopefully there was one or two real valuable things that we said. But the reality is it's just going out there and taking action, like you said, and applying what you've done. Stop talking about it, just go do it and take that first step.
Awesome, James. Thanks so much for being here, and good luck to you in what comes next, and just keep doing what you're doing, because it's people like you that really do inspire others into action. So thank you for that.
Awesome, man. Thanks, Evan.
Hey everyone, it's Zeph. Did you like this episode? Be sure to subscribe so that you can tune in next week and tell a friend about the show. If you want access to free training and exclusive interviews on success, happiness, lifestyle design, and adventure, visit me at yearofpurpose.com. Until next time, go out and let life surprise you so that you can live a life rescripted.